And I wish to give you some feedback about our trips that we have been taking around the world. I promised you that I will get this done. It's almost a week ago now since we last spoke. We left for China. We came from Burkina Faso. We also had the chance of taking some days in Ethiopia. Some very interesting things have been happening from the time I went into Burkina Faso to see what other people are doing in their countries. That's why I got this. That's why I got this new baby here, this personalized kora here from some friends in Burkina Faso. They call it a kora. I may want to actually do an advanced recording between a kora and a mbira. I just want to see how the two instruments would sound together. The mbira has got 21 string, 21 keys. This one has also got 21 keys in their most standard way. It would be nice to just combine the sound and see how it is going. Burkina Faso is an interesting model of governance that has come out in the 21st century, particularly in our generation. The previous generation, we used to hear things of coups, d'etats, issues of liberation movements, taking over their power from the colonial systems to themselves. And all through that time, some of the wars that we thought we were fighting were not our wars at all. These were wars of the multinationals scrambling and fighting over the resources. If you can keep your eyes very closely on Niger, you see France preparing to go to war to go and redeem some of the uranium that was left there by Orion, one of their mining companies. The World Bank made a ruling also that the people of Niger must not have access to their own resources. Instead, they must allow the French people to come and collect the uranium. And Russia has stepped in to say they will protect. And Burkina Faso and Mali have also joined up that they will protect those resources. But what you begin to see in the three nations up north is a shift from what we might call democratic governments to what we call military benevolent takeovers, for the fear of a better word, what I might want to call the benevolent dictatorship like we witness in China. And this is where I'm going with the Burkina Faso model, where the military government that is there, they have taken national development as their priority, directly from the businesses into the community. It creates a whole new different model of governance where the government has decided to do business. The government is selling the gold directly. The government is selling its minerals directly on the world market. And the money that they're making from there, they're investing it directly into community development. Burkina Faso is a construction site. I was there myself, from the roads to the hospitals to the agricultural projects. And while he's doing all this, the dissidents and the resistance sponsored, Muslim-sponsored, Arab-sponsored, French-sponsored militias are harassing them on all their borders, plus pending coups. He survived more than 50 coups in one lifetime. I think that's quite a lot. But what I like about that model is that military governments can work when they decide to work. In particular, when they focus their minds on this is what we want to deliver, and they can take money from the resources directly into the projects themselves. Then you begin to see transformation. The other model is when governments hide behind political systems, and they hide behind votes and non-delivery in the name of democracy. And I think, to be very frank, Burkina Faso is giving us a new definition of what democracy is all about. If the people have decided and the people are convinced that this is what they want and they want to protect their leader with their own lives, then for me that is a new form of democracy. If the people say this is what we want, no one has a right of redefining and writing for the Burkina Faso people the model of what democracy looks like. They are defining their own democracy the way they want to define it. And I think Zimbabwe must be frank also We hear people are talking about 2030, 2028, elections must be evaded, and what, the policies, the constitution. I think, frankly speaking, I don't even care who is the president of any country. All I care about, do they care about the people? Are they interested in development? This whole thing of ideological transformation, maintaining of democratic rule of law and all this, it's just a circus and a great joke. For many times, these policies and principles don't benefit the people. They benefit the system itself. So we may need to redefine our Zimbabwean politics blankly, and not Zimbabwe only. South Africa, Mozambique, Swaziland, Zambia, we all might start sitting down and thinking and say to ourselves, are these colonial systems that we inherited in the name of democracy, are they working? Not only working, are they working for us? For yes, they're working, but they're working for other people. So we may want to look into this whole democratic conversation and look at it very squarely well. And I'm sorry to say this, it may sound painful. We, in our generation, suffer from what I call ideological bankruptcy. Ideological bankruptcy. I don't know who it is who told us that things must be like this. Whether it is religion, it must be like this. Whether it is technology, it must be like this. Whether it is laws of IP, it must be like this. Whether it is fashion, it must be like this. Education, it must be like this. I don't know who told us that this is what it must be like and it cannot change. This is where many of you who would quarrel with me in the line of religion and spirituality, because when you start questioning some of these things, some people get offended. And I don't know why they get offended. Because I'm not challenging them. I am challenging the system. If I say democracy does not work, you are not democracy. You are a human being working within a system that has been called democracy. The fact that you've accepted that that's the way you want to run your life does not mean that all of us, we agree with you that this is how we must run our lives. Some of us have woken up to think that the colonial system must be dismantled. It must be dismantled in all order, from education to religion to spirituality, name it. And I think this is the ideological bankruptcy that I find within political corridors. Some will come around and say, well, that's socialism, but that's still white. And some will come and say, that's capitalism, but that's white. Hey, that's Marxism, but that's white. How can you run away from one white man and end up with another white man again? And one is Karl Marx and the other one is capitalism. And we keep on running in circles like a dog that is chasing after its own tail. Let us be frank, particularly you young people. You young people. You need to start thinking and think very, very deeply. Do you want to inherit a failing system which you call democracy, which you did not fashion yourself, which you cannot control yourself, which has a constitution and systems that you don't even understand yourself? Is this the total sum of your education? Young people, you went to school. Some of you have studied more than some of us have. Are you telling me that you are failing to look at systems that are oppressing you and you cannot change those systems? In the name of what? It's my democratic right. The democratic right of poverty to uphold a colonial instrument of power. Burkina Faso, Madagascar, Mali, Niger, they're beginning to come up with new definitions of what their freedom must look like. And I think you needed to start sitting around as young people and challenge these systems. When I got to China, and while I'm in Burkina Faso again, but I just mention one more thing. We saw the returning in of hundreds of Black Americans or Afro-Americans coming back into Africa. Ibrahim Traoré made a decision that he will welcome the diaspora back into their country. Beautiful, beautiful initiative that he did right there. Look at the beauty of that. I was there to welcome them. The beauty of that is that you are able to attract the diaspora community with their wives, with their husbands, with their children, with their skills, with their investments, and with their lives. Another way of fundraising money. And all it means is that you change your policy, your immigration policies. I mean, you look at countries, some countries that we have in Africa that are bankrupt of human capital. And yet America and Europe and the Caribbean is rotting with educated, skilled Africans who are able-bodied both in mind and in resource. And all they need is to come back home and drink water from their grandfather's fountains. They are not coming empty-handed. While we're busy talking about investments, the Chinese investments, the Look East investment, we have another investment that is amongst our own children. So what does a country like Namibia, a country like Botswana, identify some piece of land, service the land, service the land. After servicing the land, make an invitation out there to those who want to come back into Africa. Give them access to come into the country. Free visas, free passports, free citizenship. Let them settle. But be smart. We need 100 doctors. We need 100 scientists. We need 100 IT specialists. We need 100 technicians. We need 100 of this. Make them into quotas. Bring them into the governments. Bring them into Africa here. Position them directly into your governments where you have inefficiencies and where you know that your government is incapacitated to deliver these things. We have Africans who can make aeroplanes, who can make nuclear bombs, who can make guns, who can make chemicals, who can make tablets. They are being abused in America. They are being abused in Europe. Yet they belong to us. They are our children. What do we lose as Africans in the name of democracy, in the name of these statutory requirements, in the name of immigration laws? You find it difficult. 55 countries later, 54. None of you as presidents has been able to open up the doors to our children who are in diaspora, who want to come back home. They are bringing money, they are bringing skills, they are bringing experience, they are just they just want to come back home. How difficult can that be? We are busy running our governments, running our hospitals with incompetent people. When competent people are there, our own relatives. I don't know what it will take for me to speak. So yes, Burkina Faso is starting leading the way, attracting, creating a conducive environment for the children in diaspora to return back home to Africa where they belong. China. Interesting. China is a world of its own. It's a universe on its own. Runs on its own laws. Runs on its own principles. Yeah. China is China. China runs on their own systems. Their own social media networks, their own language, their own principles. They have built for themselves a definition of what their own democracy looks like, their own governance looks like. Xi Jinping has been in power as long as he has been there, with full control over the central government. One party state. China is a world of its own. The development par excellence. Industries, factories. But one thing I saw in China which was very powerful, it is the art of reverse re-engineering. reverse re-engineering. What that means is that you go to Switzerland and you go and buy a watch and bring it into China and break it apart and create a new one. Take contracts with America for their phones, their cell phones, the technology, manufacture for them in the course of the day, meet up their own requirements. They want 15,000 of that, they want 20,000 of that, make it for them. Deliver it to them. And in the evening, start manufacturing for your own. This is how the fake market started. They started faking because they were experimenting. But with time, pound for pound, what Google can do, they can do. What Apple can do, they can do. What Microsoft can do, they can do. This has been able to create a high demand for minerals in China, because now they have the technology to beneficiate those minerals into final products. Your watches, your belts, your shoes, your cars, your cell phones, your laptops, your clothes, name it. If it can be made, they can make it. There's a big joke that I heard at one time. Another country in the West produced what they called the world's smallest needle, the world's smallest needle. And then China made one that had a hole inside it. So they managed to make another needle smaller than that one and make a hole inside the other one. Now that's technology. China gives us a model, which as African countries, we may want to start thinking and thinking very carefully and say, what do we do with our resources? Do we continue to supply them as raw materials into China? Or can we also start reverse re-engineering? Listen, this is guerrilla warfare. It takes some confidence to break some rules. Yes, IP rules. Buy the machineries. Break away from those treaties of you can't produce this, you can't manufacture that, you can't manufacture that. Julius Malema did a brilliant presentation the other day on BMWs and Mercedes-Benz, some of the treaties that they've signed with the South African government that prohibits the government from manufacturing their own cars. Instead, they can only assemble those cars so that the IP remains in Germany. If South Africa can produce military helicopters, military cars, Dinero can produce that. Tell me honestly that you can't produce just a car. But many of these inhibitions are incumbent in the government bilateral agreements, which are a hamstring to progress and development. So China has been able to break free from law, break the law, and write your own laws. It's working. China has produced more millionaires in the last 20, 30 years than anyone else in the whole world. While people are complaining that it's not democratic, it's not democratic, do you, in your account, in your bank, have you ever seen a balance of democracy? Africa, you must do what works. Do what works. Don't be infatuated with ideologies that are not practical, are not implementable, are not sustainable. China breaks all the rules. And now they have a GDP, they have an economy, not only in terms of GDP, but in terms of population. 1.5 million men standing on their feet, building their country. The last one I'll give you is Ethiopia. Ethiopia Ethiopia has built one of the biggest dams in Africa on the river Nile. Of course, it did not go without a war from Egypt and the World Bank. The pain of the World Bank, they wanted to sponsor the project, but of course at a cost of reputation, at a cost of influence, at a cost of debt. The Ethiopians sold their goats, sold their cows, sold their chickens. They sent SMSs around, and every time you responded to an SMS, that money would go towards building of the dam. Ethiopia was able to raise 800 million from its own people who believe in the vision of the government and their leaders. The dam has been built, completed, debt-free. When you're flying into Ethiopia, the whole country full of lights. No donor money, no penny from IMF, no penny from World Bank. All money raised from the people. From the people. This is what happens when people take responsibility over their own resources and they start building their own society and their own country without interactions and interruptions. The three illustrations that I've shared with you this morning, that is Burkina Faso, that is China, and that is Ethiopia. Of course, with Zimbabwe on the wings of the introduction, is that systems, unless they are driven by people who are passionate about transformation, they remain as systems and they change nothing. Burkina Faso transformed the system so that they can work for you, to achieve for you what you want to achieve. China still transform, adapt your economy to the challenges of your enemies, build political ideologies that service your people. And Ethiopia, nothing can beat the power of the people, who, when they want to take their country to the next level, they don't have to wait for anybody. Zimbabwe, you have a system and it's not working. You may want to revisit the principles of your democratic and your freedom charters and your constitution. You may want to revisit them and find out, are these principles working to service the people, or they are here to destroy, slow down, and impede the success and the progress of our nation. I've just landed back from Ethiopia and China, and I think I've gained lots of knowledge, a deeper understanding of the global markets in which we are operating from. We now can see things that work, and we can also see things that do not work. But we are having a group of young people who have been watching the political conversations happening with lots of these, democratic slogans that we hear. We are going to do this, we are going to do this. And the things that were promised that they will be done many times are just locked up in the democratic bureaucracy. At the end of the day, nothing is happening. A very painful example is that which is happening in Zimbabwe, where the local municipalities, the city municipalities, most of them are actually in the hands of the opposition parties, the opposition politics. And yet the monies and the minister of local government is the one who has jurisdiction over the municipality spendings. Less the corruption and the scandals that have been happening in local municipalities, the ruling party, which is ZANU-PF, has lots of its members within the rural communities. And due to that effect, we have been watching a very painful, if not a terrible, political development happening in the country. It is that while the opposition parties are running city municipalities, the government, the ZANU-PF, is punishing the city communities for voting for opposition and stalling the progress within those municipalities and within the cities. The cities are not in the best of state because the state, the ruling party rather, does not have direct drive of the projects that are happening at the local municipality. It's what I might call a political standoff, where the ruling party and the opposition parties are busy doing politics while services are not being delivered to the local people. It is not embarrassing to say that ZANU-PF had lost most of the support within the cities, that is Harare, Gweru, Bulawayo, Mutare, major cities, as these cities had fallen off to the opposition parties. However, when the opposition parties are submitting budgets for the municipality spending, then we'll hear there will be lots of hamstrings and delayed processes and progress for getting those projects delivered. At the end of the day, Harare is struggling, Gweru is struggling, Bula is struggling, very little happening within the municipality itself. We may be seeing big developments that the government, through ZANU-PF, is doing within the periphery of the town. Even the roads, they can only make the roads up to the outskirts of the city, because the city itself is being run by the municipality, in this case, Mr. Mafume himself. I had one time got myself involved in the project in Ufaro, where we're asking the able-bodied men to contribute towards the building of that stadium. Alas, the politics was that if the opposition party allowed ZANU-PF money to be used to build that stadium, then they would lose their support and votes. What we've been noticing in the past few days is a rather very interesting development here in the local Harare space, where the likes of Kudata Gure, Tungwarara, Scott Saukanya, and some of the top businessmen in the country here have decided to take the journey straight into the community. This came in as a way of introducing the Central Party members to the local constituencies. And I must say, with very much interest, we've begun to see the mobilization of the urban voting membership coming back into rallies, getting excited again about politics within the ZANU-PF and Zimbabwe. But let that not only end up in slogans and end up in poems and good speeches. What would be good is to see the practical implementation. If need be, the ruling party, ZANU-PF, must stop acting like it is opposition politics, an opposition political party. It is a ruling party, and as such, a ruling party must have some veto power of some sort, must have some direct impact in the society, and also even in the political running of the municipalities. And this is where I'm going with the Burkina Faso model, where the military government that is there, they have taken national development as their priority, directly from the businesses into the community. It creates a whole new different model of governance, where the government has decided to do business. The government is selling the gold directly. The government is selling its minerals directly on the world market. And the money that they're making from there, they're investing it directly into community development. Burkina Faso is a construction site. I was there myself, from the roads to the hospitals to the agricultural projects. And while he's doing all this, the dissidents and the resistance sponsored, Muslim-sponsored, Arab-sponsored, French-sponsored militias are harassing them on all their borders, plus pending coups. He survived more than 50 coups in one lifetime. I think that's quite a lot. But what I like about that model is that military governments can work when they decide to work. In particular, when they focus their minds on this is what we want to deliver, and they can take money from the resources directly into the projects themselves. Then you begin to see transformation. The other model is when governments hide behind political systems, and they hide behind votes and non-delivery in the name of democracy. And I think, to be very frank, Burkina Faso is giving us a new definition of what democracy is all about. If the people have decided and the people are convinced that this is what they want and they want to protect their leader with their own lives, then for me that is a new form of democracy. If the people say this is what we want, no one has the right of redefining and writing for the Burkina Faso people the model of what democracy looks like. They are defining their own democracy the way they want to define it. And I think Zimbabwe must be frank also. We hear people are talking about 2030, 2028, elections must be evaded, and what, the policies, the constitution. I think, frankly speaking, I don't even care who is the president of any country.
Yes, that is Mr. Joshua Maponga, a farmer of thought, talking about his views on his tour starting with his tour to Burkina Faso, coming to Ethiopia, then he went to China, and of course he has trying to compare and to see which system we can move with as Africans. Of course, he has said what has happened in Burkina Faso is more relevant and good for Africa to move with, because right now the people of Burkina Faso, the government of course, are selling its gold to the world market, while in many African countries, countries which they are calling themselves democratic government, democratic countries, those things are being taken by other people, being sold by the middlemen who are earning more than we who own those resources. So I think that's a good model, and we have seen many African countries started to take such kind of model. We have seen Botswana. Apart from Botswana, we have seen also Namibia. So we have seen countries such as so there's so many countries that have done well on that matter. So I think as Africans we need to see how we can do.
Thank you, Africa.